Hi everybody. Today the topic is what to do when family caregivers always come in second or third or fourth or fifth or way at the bottom of the priority list. Family caregivers often place your needs below everybody else. So in this video I'm going to talk about what you can learn to do when you're coming in second or last or you're way at the bottom of that priority list. I'm Pamela D. Wilson. My website is pameladwilson.com. Stay with me for a lot of hope, help, support. Go to my website. A lot of tips there, articles, videos, hundreds of videos here actually on YouTube. But my complimentary online course, my podcast, The Caring Generation, my book, The Caregiving Trap, a lot of help, support there. So the question to ask yourself is, are you feeling like you have given up your life and everything in it to be a caregiver? And you're watching your friends and everybody else out there living their life and they appear to be having a blast. Well, I can tell you appearances are not always the truth, but that's not going to make you feel any better, right? So if you feel isolated or lonely or depressed or hopeless and you're wondering how to turn around this situation that clearly you feel has you at the bottom of the priority list, where you feel like at a disadvantage. Everybody else is doing all this and getting all these things and you're burned out. You're exhausted. You can't go on. When you're in that situation mentally, so number one is you have to realize that change is possible. You may feel like, oh, I can't make any changes. I'm in a bad situation. I have no idea what to do. Not true. The only reason that you feel that way is because you are physically and emotionally worn down to the point that this brain up here is on overload and it can't think positively and it can't help you arrive at solutions because it's clogged. It's like a traffic jam, right? You got this traffic jam up here and you just can't think of anything and you're exhausted and you're tired, right? You got to clear the traffic jam out, right? So the first part of doing that is you have to step out of this caregiving situation that makes you feel that you're at the bottom of the priority pile. To do that, you have to prioritize yourself and your time for a little bit every day or once a week or whatever. You have to schedule time to make yourself a priority. Because if you feel like you're not a priority, you got to shift that. You got to shift it. You cannot stay there. It's mandatory that you have to get out and do something else to clear your mind, clear that traffic jam in your mind so that you can train your mind to think positively. And if you can't figure out how to do that, there are ways. You can go to the library and check out a bunch of inspirational or motivational books, or talk to friends and say, how do you motivate yourself? How do you stay positive? Go to church, do things that you used to do before being a caregiver that inspire and that motivate you. Because to make this change from being at the bottom of the priority level to like making yourself a priority, raising yourself up there, you have to find ways to clear your mind, think positively, motivate yourself, and take action. So number two, now that you know that change is possible and you accept that change is possible, you have to make it happen. And if you're in a caregiving situation, the situation just doesn't involve you, right? It involves the person you care for. So you're going to have to get over that bridge of being quiet and not saying what you need and involving the person that you care for in this conversation about your change, because changing your life is going to change their life. And they may not like it. That may be why you are stuck at the bottom of the priority list, because your parents are demanding and demanding and demanding, and you don't have the self-esteem or the confidence to stand up and say, no, I can't do anymore. We have to find other solutions. I know caregivers who've done this, and many times where they end up is after their loved one passes away, they're angry, they're resentful because they gave up time with their spouses or time with their children, or they missed their children's graduation. You can miss out on so many things when you are the caregiver and you're putting yourself at the bottom of the pile. You got to raise yourself up and realize that you deserve a life. You deserve to be a priority, even though you're caring for somebody else. So Let's say worst case scenario, you are in a 24 care situation, you've given up your life, you're living with a parent, you have no job, you have no money, and you are totally relying on them. Worst case situation, because you feel like you've got no way out. Many caregivers do this. So you have to think of the idea of what I call emancipation, and I know that's a big word, but what it means is living without restrictions, or living with restrictions or constraints, like limitations, right, that you are comfortable with and that you can manage. So in a sense, you have to become independent again, like remember when you originally graduated from high school and you moved out of your parents' house, or I'm hoping that you did that, right? You were independent, you had a job, you were living your life, it was great. You have to get back to that. You got to bring that back into your life. You've done it once, you can do it again. So you have to think about what it's going to take to move the needle from here to here. And you may not be able to do it in a week or a month, but maybe over a period of a couple months or a year. So you got to think of where you want to go and then how you're going to get there. So I know many of you are saying, oh, Pamela, I can't do that. Yes, you can if you want to. If you're willing to change the way that you think, if you're willing to change what you do, and if you're willing to have these very difficult conversations with your parent and not be scared to have them, not feel intimidated. You have to learn to stand up for yourself. It's time, okay? So number 3, we're kind of off to the races. We realize change is possible. We're going to figure out how to do it. So you got to make a list. You have to start brainstorming, and you can do that kind of, 10 minutes a day, or do it when you take a walk, or do it when you make some time for yourself. But stop feeling guilty about this, because it is okay to make yourself a priority, especially if you've been number 2 or 3 or 4 or 10th on the list for a long time. You've got to commit to emancipation and becoming independent and not having all these constraints and rules on your life. So you're starting to make lists, you're starting to make plans. And maybe things don't work out the way that you thought they would. So number 4 is there are going to be bumps along the way. You're going to make progress. You're going to take a step back. It's going to be hard. That's okay. Because the process of working toward this goal should just lift your spirit. It should lift your hopes that things can be different. And on those days when you think that it's not possible, or it's taking too long, or it's so hard, I get it. But you've got to find a way to keep the faith. Keep the hope. And the way that you can do that is to work on your mind and your thoughts, because your mind is the greatest tool that you have to avoid despair and feeling hopeless and feeling that there's no way to change the situation. There is. So you're going to make progress here. Another suggestion, number 5 actually, is to keep a notebook and write down how you're feeling every day and what one activity or maybe 2 things that you did that keep you moving toward this goal, so that every week you can look back and say, wow, you know what? I made progress even though I don't feel like I did. On Monday I did this, and Tuesday I did this, and Wednesday I did this. You have to write this down, because your mind, again, remember, it's spinning. You got that traffic jam up here. It's not going to give you credit for the progress that you're making unless you make it give yourself credit, right? You got to tell your mind what you want it to do. Don't let your mind tell you what it wants you to do, because the mind is always going to go to the worst possible scenario, the scariest thing that can happen, the most negative thing that happens. It's always going to beat you up. You have to tell your mind, I'm done with that. I'm not at the bottom of the pile anymore. I'm moving to the top. I'm going to be positive. I'm going to make choices. I'm going to work this out with my parent. Whatever you do, stay motivated, stay hopeful, so that you can get there. I'm Pamela D. Wilson. Check out my website, PamelaDWilson.com. A lot of hope, help, and support there. Caregiving courses, my podcast, my book, articles, and plus there's hundreds of videos here on my YouTube channel answering questions caregivers ask. Please like the channel, share it with other people who are looking for hope, help, and support. Have a fabulous day today. I'll see you all again soon in another video. Keep the faith.